Hi folks, this is Vicki at patternprincess.com. Today I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful, super bulky blanket. It's 50 inches by 62. I'm going to show you how to weave in the yarn ends, how to join the yarn, how to do the stitches, how to work with this super huge 30mm hook, and it's all made with Bernat blanket yarn. This is in an Earl Grey, and it's a number 7 giant jumbo yarn. And I'm going to show you first of all how to hold the hook. This hook here, I normally I'm going to hold it somewhere similar to this, or you might have a pencil way to hold it. I have found with this hook, even though they give you a thumb area here, because I'm pushing the loops onto this hook, I'm usually covering this area. When I'm first doing the chain stitch, I will rest my thumb here in this little thumb groove, and after that I'm usually kind of holding it towards the bottom here. But this is a very big hook. It's a wooden hook made out of actually bamboo, and then this yarn, as I said, it's a Bernat Big yarn. It's from Yarn Inspirations. Okay, and I've used, I think it was 10 skeins on this whole blanket. I'll have the pattern written up by the time that I show you this video, I will have the pattern written. So you can see how nice and thick this yarn is. It's very fuzzy, very fluffy. So it's very forgiving, and the stitch that I'm using, the half double crochet, is very forgiving as well. So what I do is I'll loop a couple loops off of here, and then I'm just gonna do a sample chain stitch for size for you here, but I'll do a couple rows. So I'm gonna leave a tail, because in that tail I'm gonna weave in by hand. So the first thing, however you normally get your slip stitch on your hook, go ahead and put your slip stitch on your hook. This is how I happen to do mine. Now my slip stitch is ready. We put this here, and as you're working your chain stitches, you might have to stop and adjust a little bit. That's okay. And it did take me about an hour and a half, because I was counting, I was getting my gauge, I was practicing, doing swatches, and so it took me about an hour and a half to get used to working with this yarn. One more thing, when I have I would say a medium weight yarn, anything that's less than this, I generally hold it like this. I bring my finger through the loop or the yarn, and then use my pointing finger, and then I'll hold my yarn with these fingers, because that just helps guide the yarn along and give it just a little bit of tension. That I found does not work with this. I found that I generally am holding it like this between my two fingers here and just a little bit here, so I can still hold my work right here with my thumb and my middle finger. Okay, so we're going to chain some. This stitch pattern, it does not matter how many you chain. You can start with however many you'd like. So I have 2. The biggest thing is if your stitches aren't looking kind of uniform, if you get a wonky one, pull it out and redo it. It's not a big deal. Don't make super tight stitches. Try not to make super loose ones either, just like in regular crochet. But as you see, I'm using this left hand to help guide the yarn over my hook. Okay, now let's see how it's looking. It's not looking too bad. It's a little bit wonky. I have to adjust it, but that's pretty even, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 stitches, and look at how long this is already. My hand from the base of it here to the tip is about 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's about 5, maybe 4.5, 5 stitches right there already, for that length that I've just showed you with my hand. If I don't happen to have my tape measure, that's an easy way to show. And we'll do a couple more here. I don't know how many I have. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We'll go one more, 12. Okay, this blanket consists of half double crochets. Normally when you start a row with half double crochets, you chain 2. And when you start crocheting with your chain stitches, you will skip 2. So we're going to skip this stitch here. Not going to count the loop on the hook. We're going to skip this chain, and in this chain right here, we're going to do a half double crochet. So I'm going to use my left hand to yarn over, and if I reverse this, it'll be my right hand. So because I will reverse this for the left hand crocheters. So again, we're skipping. So in the third chain, loop reverse, should say chain from the hook, we're inserting our hook, yarning over, and again, I use this left hand to help. I have those 3 loops on the hook. I just yarned over again, and now I pull through all 3. And now I slide that loop down a little bit. That helps, because you're going to yarn over. We're going to the next loop, pushing it through, grabbing that yarn. Now I have my 3 loops. Again, push them back a little bit, yarn over, and bring it through all 3. I'm just going to continue working on this so you can see how I'm doing it, what I'm doing, and I'll continue this whole first row. It's actually kind of hard. This is the hard part, to be honest, doing the first row, because I think it's hardest when you have the chain stitches. There we go. And I just kind of fluff them and adjust them as we go along. Whoopsies. That happens. It's okay. And sometimes I help it right over like that. I just use my left hand as my helper hand. And it makes it so much easier to just pull them on over, yarn over. Come on. There we go. We just got a couple more stitches left. And this works up really fast because this yarn is so bulky. So you need a lot less rows, but I do suggest counting every row. I have to get just a smidge more yarn to finish a stitch. Okay, which one's my tail? Here we go. All right. Row 1 is done. Now let's count. All right. So this chain 2 that we skipped, that counts as a stitch. And then you can tell, it's pretty easy to tell. Here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we have 10 stitches. Now this next row that we're going to do is a row that we're going to repeat all the way through. And we're going to be working in the back loop. That gives us this little hump that gives a lot more texture. We already have loads of texture, but we're going to have more. I got to get my yarn straightened out here. Just give me one moment. Here we go. And I have been changing the yarn right where I run out. I do a square knot to secure, and then I do leave a little bit for the yarn ends to weave in. So we're going to start with our chain 2. There's 1, 2. That counts as our first stitch, which is right here. Okay, that counts as that. So we have to go over here to this next stitch. Since the chain 2, we already have that one done. And we're going to be working in the back loop. Yarn over, go in the back loop, yarn over, and go through all 3 loops. Oops. And as you could tell, it is a little bit of, the yarn does like to kind of stick to itself a little bit. So you really do have to just be patient. You work up so much, you know, it works up so quickly. I did the blanket that I first showed you, the large blanket, in 2 days. So I don't know, it was about 12 hours of work. And yes, your arms get tired. Yes, I had to take Advil for my wrist. It was hard on my wrist, on my right wrist. But that's okay. It's probably because I did computer work before I even started this today too. There we go. It's going to continue to work on our loops. But anyways, I was going to say, just take your time as you work through things and adjust them as you go. If you need to pull out a stitch here and there, that's okay. Now we're almost to the end. We have the end stitch here and this stitch here. So let's make sure and then it's get all of our loops, and then let's make sure that we count. It's always a great idea to count because it's so easy to miss. And I should be putting it right here. Come on. There we go. All right. So here's after 2. And you can't really see the definition of the rows yet, but you will start to see it. You can see a little bit of a ridge right here. And as you go from side to side, you'll see it more. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we come up with 10 every single time. Now, let me show you on the big blanket. I saved some spots for you. I'm going to end this. When you end your blanket, this is very big and heavy. I'm actually showing you on my ironing board because I needed a space big enough to show you. This is my last stitch for the big blanket. And you can see the definition in this, can't you? Just look at that lovely thickness. Look at the thickness and the definition in this. It's so soft and it's very warm. So if you're doing it in the summer, have your air conditioning on. So I'm going to pull my yarn through this very last loop here, and I may have to help it along. Let's see here, which way is, there we go. Because it has a tendency to stick to itself, which is good because then when you weave in your ends, they're really not going to come out very easy. So now, instead of using a yarn needle, I'm just using my fingers, and just as you would weave something in with your yarn needle, I'm going to do it now with my fingers. And you go one way, you know, weave it in a couple times one way, and then you weave it in a couple times the next way, and then we'll cut off our yarn. And then when I changed color, I should say color, when I changed my yarn, as I was working on it, I have one of those spots to show you. I just had I had to help the yarn work through the knots. Here we go. Now I'm going to go the other way a little bit, over on the side. And then come back up this way again. And then maybe one more. I did a square knot first, and then I weaved in my yarn ends. So it's pretty secure. And there was one skein of yarn, maybe one more time, that had, which way, this way, that had already the yarn joined and knotted from the factory. And when I get that, I pull on it snugly to make sure that it's not going to come apart on me. So this is done. Now I'm going to cut this off, and I've left just a little bit there, and then I pull a little bit because there's some of the fuzz likes to come off, but you can't see it, like it blends right in. So when you do your yarn changing, I'm going to get my big blanket over here. Oh my Lord. There we go. This is the spot where I had joined. I just did my square knot, and then I'll take one piece and go this way and down and maybe this way and up for this piece. And I'll weave it in the same way as I did at the end. Okay, I'll do that. And then let me just show you to make sure that you know. When doing oh here, I can show you on this little piece. When you do a square knot, I was always taught you go left over right, and then you go right over left, and then you pull. And this makes a very nice knot. And that's how I knot my yarn, and then I will weave it in. And as I'm crocheting along, I will just make sure that the ends are sticking out on one side or the other. And if the knot happens to be in a section where I'm crocheting, I just lift the loop over the knot. It's not a big deal. It gets covered right up. You cannot see it. So I hope that you make one of these big blankets for yourself. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, warm blanket. So snuggly and soft. But thank you for watching. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe. And again, the pattern will be available on patternprincess.com.